What up YouTube, it's your boy ProfessorStix and I'm back again with another Call of Duty Warzone video. Today we're going to be comparing the Cold War AK47 versus the FFAR. We'll be comparing the stats, looking at the recoil pattern, and I will be sharing with you the best attachments. We're going to find out, does the Cold War AK47 rise into the meta in Warzone? If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I make Warzone tips and tricks videos and I compare the best weapons in Warzone. Let's get into it. Now, when we're looking at the weapon stats, the Cold War AK47 has an ADS speed of 267 milliseconds, which now beats out the FFAR, which had its ADS speed reduced to 300 milliseconds. When we're looking at the movement speed, the Cold War AK47 does have a better movement speed than the FFAR, coming in at 4.76 meters per second compared to the FFAR that is 4.69 meters per second. Now, when we're looking at the reload speed, the Cold War AK47 does have a reload speed of 2.15 seconds compared to the FFAR, which has a reload speed of 2.48 seconds. The rate of fire for the Cold War AK47 is 600 rounds per minute compared to the FFAR, which comes in at 900 rounds per minute. So we can see here that the Cold War AK47 does have a slight advantage over the FFAR in terms of movement speed and reload speed. However, that FFAR does have the better rate of fire, but when we look at the damage profile, we're going to see that the Cold War AK47 has some surprises. Let's get right into it. Now, the Cold War AK47 does 58 damage to the head, which means it takes 5 shots to down a fully armored opponent, compared to the FFAR, which does 40 damage to the head, which means it takes 7 shots to down a fully armored opponent. Now, the Cold War AK47 does 43 damage to the chest, which means it takes 6 shots to down a fully armored opponent. And that is pretty impressive because that is just 1 extra shot compared to hitting all headshots. And so the damage profile on the Cold War AK47 is very high. Now, when we look at the FFAR, it does 27 damage to the chest, which means it takes 10 shots to down a fully armored opponent. Now, keep in mind that both of these weapons do have a damage fall off. The AK47 coming in at 25 meters and the FFAR coming in at 31 meters. Now, if you're liking the video so far, make sure you hit that like button. Let's get into the time to kill. If you are hitting all your headshots, the Cold War AK47 is going to down a fully armored opponent in 400 milliseconds. Now, that is super impressive because the FFAR also will down a fully armored opponent if you are hitting all of your headshots in 400 milliseconds. And that is very, very good in Warzone. This is where it becomes good because the Cold War AK47, if you hit all chest shots, you are going to down a fully armored opponent in 500 milliseconds compared to the FFAR, which now does that in 600 milliseconds. And that's why the Cold War AK47 is now rising above the FFAR. You're going to see that a lot of people are already using the Cold War AK47 for their close range and mid-range gunfights. And I'm telling you, it absolutely shreds. If you hit 1 or 2 headshots, you're still going to down a fully armored opponent in 500 milliseconds. But if you hit 3 headshots, you're going to down a fully armored opponent in 400 milliseconds. What does that mean? It means that the Cold War AK47 is very forgiving. You just need to hit all chest shots and you're going to see that you're going to be downing opponents a lot faster than you would with other ARs. If you use the FFAR, if you hit 1 or 2 headshots, your time to kill does reduce from 600 milliseconds to 533 milliseconds, but you have to hit that 3rd headshot to get into the 400 millisecond range in terms of time to kill. And so right now, the Cold War AK47 is looking pretty cold right now. It's looking very, very nice. Let's look at the recoil pattern. All right, so taking a look at the recoil pattern, we have the Cold War AK47 on the left and the FFAR on the right. Now, the Cold War AK47 did have its recoil pattern buffed, and we can see here that it is primarily vertical. There is some sporadic spacing between the first couple of bullets, but after that, it pretty much tightens up. Then there's another skip, but for the most part, it is very vertical. There is a ton of vertical recoil compared to the FFAR, which comes in a little bit shorter. And so I'll show you guys some attachments that you can use to control that vertical recoil. But for the primary build that I use, which is a close range build, you can see that it is primarily vertical recoil, and that is very easy to control in those close range combat. So I'm not going to say much else about the recoil pattern. I think it's pretty easy, especially compared to the FFAR, which does have a little bit of that S-shaped curve. AK47 should be primarily easy to control if you're used to the FFAR or any other AR that has a lot of vertical recoil. All right, so let's talk about the situational use. The Cold War AK47 is excellent, and it is a good close to mid-range AR. you can use this at close range, but you got to make sure that you are hitting those shots because it does have a low rate of fire. It is a good aggressive AR and does a ton of damage to the head and chest, meaning you can challenge multiple opponents. So if you're like to take on those 1v3, 1v4 situations, having the Cold War AK47 is really good, especially because you can also challenge people at mid-range combat. All right, so for the attachments, you're gonna wanna go with the GRU suppressor, the 20-inch Spetsnaz RPK barrel, which is gonna give you the strafe speed, the bullet velocity, and the effective damage range. You are gonna get a hit on your vertical and horizontal recoil, but as we saw in the recoil pattern, it is gonna be pretty easy to control. Also, you're gonna be using this at close range. You're gonna wanna go with the 45 round speed mag. The reason why you're going with this magazine is because you wanna still have that ADS speed, because you're gonna primarily be using this at close range. You're gonna wanna make sure that that ADS speed is still pretty optimum, especially because the movement speed has been nerfed. You're gonna wanna go with the Tiger Team Spotlight. Again, this is gonna increase your movement speed and also increase your aim walking movement speed, which is your ADS movement speed. Then you're gonna wanna go with the KGP Skeletal Stock. This is gonna increase your sprint to fire time, increase your aim walking movement speed, and your ADS firing move speed. So this is a close range build or a sniper support build that we're going with here. If you feel like you're gonna have some issues with the recoil pattern, you're gonna wanna take off the Tiger Team Spotlight barrel and put on the Spetsnaz grip, which is gonna help you counteract that horizontal and vertical recoil pattern. All right, guys, let's get into the FFAR. FFAR is gonna be the standard build. We have the agency suppressor, the 19.5-inch task force barrel, which is gonna give you that strafe speed, bullet velocity, and effective damage range. You're gonna wanna go with the 50 round drum mag, the serpent wrap, which is gonna help you increase that ADS speed since it's been nerfed on the FFAR. And you're gonna wanna go with that Raider stock, which is gonna increase your sprint to fire time and increase your aim walking movement speed and your ADS firing speed. All right, so here are my final thoughts. The Cold War AK47 has a very impressive TTK, and the new recoil pattern allows it to be viable in Warzone. Although the Cold War weapons mobilities has been nerfed in the recent patch, the Cold War AK47 is still very viable for a close to mid-range option. Now you might want to go with an SMG, which offers more mobility, but the AK47 offers more destructive power with this impressive TTK. So now in Warzone, we have a pretty good balance where you can use the SMGs for mobility, but you can use the ARs also as a secondary for sniper support, or if you're looking for more power and less mobility with a secondary. So we are in a pretty good state when it comes to weapon balancing. There are a lot of choices, and I think the Cold War AK47 is one of the top choices when it comes to that close range combat. If you can control the recoil, if you can hit those headshots, those chest shots, and not miss a lot of shots in those close range combat, your time to kill is going to be very, very impressive. You're going to be winning a lot of close range gunfights. You just need to make sure that you're hitting those shots. All right, guys, that's it for me. As always, if you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can find your way back for more Call of Duty content. As always, make sure you drop into Verdansk and frag out. Peace.